Hi, Soul Family. Caitlin here. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for being here to all my subscribers, 51. You guys were a community. So I just appreciate you showing up and supporting this channel, supporting yourself, supporting all of our journeys, and a collective consciousness of awareness for the highest good of all. So thank you so much. You already know that my name is Caitlin, and I created this channel after my spiritual awakening to help others feel like they have a home, feel like they can share in experiences that might not feel comfortable explaining to others. I know how sometimes this journey can feel lonely, but I'm glad we can be with each other as we go through things. So in this video, I wanted to do something a little different and talk more about things I experienced before my spiritual awakening. And I say this because, you know how when I upload my videos, like I have to select hashtags. And it just struck me, it's so wild how many people are looking at PTSD. People are looking at trauma healing, right? And there's such an emphasis on being mentally ill, right? Being mentally sick, and our society is kind of obsessed with suffering, right? And I do see it as a stepping stone. Like, it's great that we're bringing things to the surface. Shadows are coming up. We're really aligning with like what Carl Jung taught, and his psychology, seeing the shadow, making the unconscious known, right? But there comes a time in all of our journeys where we have to decide, am I going to keep going down the rabbit hole of trauma and of suffering and identify as a victim of my mind and a victim of my circumstances? Essentially just being a victim of this world? Or will I choose to awaken and allow the shadow to come to light, and allow that not only do I have a shadow, but that the shadow is me, and that the shadows everywhere in the world are myself, and that the light everywhere in the world is myself, right? And that I'm not a victim of the world, I'm not a victim of circumstances. I create circumstances. And that reality honestly didn't come to me, like that decision to see that reality. It didn't come to me months until after I had started surrendering what I was experiencing to the universe, which I thought was outside of me at that time. Thought it was still something bigger than me, right? And but one thing that was really prominent that I remember experiencing is there was so much pressure inside, so much pressure, that it felt like I was like sitting with a brick at the bottom of the ocean. And I'm recognizing now that that pressure, it was not just inside, but it was also in my energetic field. It's just so much density that you feel like you're tied to a brick at the bottom of the ocean as you're going through your shadow and confronting everything head on, right? And you don't talk about it, you don't share it, because you're recognizing that, no, I have to deal with this. I want to transmute this, right? It's the transmutation bubble, if you will. So as you're transmuting every single thing, every single shadow into love, every single shadow into light, normally it comes from, right, we're taking our conditionings of the world, usually just from family programs or from wounds, and we're transmuting it to love. And then as we continue down this rabbit hole and we realize that maybe we're at the end of the trail and we're like, well, I've transmuted, it seems like, everything. But then you get into the world things, the social programming, the broader social programming of the idea of light and darkness, of the idea of morality. And now you transmute that too. And after that bubble pops, right, I feel like you come to a point, and this is actually just for me, I should say, I came to a point, right, because also at this point when we're transmuting everything, we probably had to cut out so many people in our lives, right? We ran from all these events. We said, like, this person's a narcissist, this just keeps happening, everyone's dark. You're seeing all the darkness of the world, you're seeing all the patterns, right? And we might not realize. Might not have come to we might still be living in separation, and before oneness, we're still thinking that I am my highest self, I'm operating in my highest self, but no one else is, right? Does that make sense? And so we're thinking that, at least I was thinking, that I won't let people near me unless they are operating in their highest selves, right? Unless they have the fruit of the Spirit, unless they've done their shadow work and everything. It's totally logical and reasonable. But what I found was, months after, was that by continuing to cut people off from me, that I was cutting off pieces of myself, because there's only oneness. Because I still saw that person as separate from me. I still saw that shadow as separate from me. And so, after truly understanding oneness and that all is love, after the awakening, it's like, oh, all there is me. Everyone is me. I am everything. Everything is love. Everyone is love. Oh, then I have to remain in my highest self. And when I remain in my highest self at all times and operate from my heart, I will see everyone as their highest self, and the world will reflect that around me. You see the difference? So instead of operating from the flesh, now everything is alive, everything is permeable. And this is why in the Bible it talks about every part of your body is connected, right? It says if you cut off your hand, will it not affect other parts of the body? Something like that. And so I have learned to not cut things off, because when we grow frequentially anyway, things will change around us and things will disappear themselves, or things will evolve naturally to meet us in our new frequency, right? So instead of preemptively cutting something off and trying to take control of the situation, I have found that is where death occurs, spiritual death occurs. And it creates a new shadow in us. And it's like, oh, okay. So that's what I found personally. And it just creates more work for us, is what I found. Creates more work because we're identifying with the 3D, and we're cementing ourselves to a timeline and to energies outside of us. And that we're cementing to separation rather than oneness, rather than a unified field of consciousness. So when we allow everything to fall away, when we allow everything to be natural, when we allow everything to evolve or fall away in its own time, in a way that aligns with our highest selves, as we focus on our highest selves, as we grow naturally, we're expanding, we're expanded, right? And we're not identifying with the 3D world, we're identifying with the spiritual realm, with the spiritual truth. We're identifying as God at that point, and we're also understanding the rules of reflection. So we're operating in oneness, not separation. So that's the most important point, I think. Before I truly understood what awakening was, in the oneness, the reality of oneness, the reality of what was actually happening, I would still I would still just be so deluded by the idea of separation, by that illusion, right? And just remain stuck in that. So that's really the whole journey, right? Is before reckoning with oneness and recognizing all as yourself. And I think we can do that logically, but when we recognize it with the heart, when we embody it as the truth, when we remain in that sovereign identity of oneness with all, everything softens around us. Everything becomes magical, funny even. That's what I found, is that I laugh a lot more. But anyway, just giving full context of the idea of how entrenched I was in separation, even as I was doing the inner work, even as I was transmuting, dense energy to light, right? To lightness, we can still be entrenched in separation. And it's not until we come out into that unity consciousness where we're really free, right? We're really liberated. So anyway, so that was one thing, was the heavy pressure that I felt, the heavy density, where it feels like you're underwater with a brick and you're just like, wow, you think you can't, it's just, you're holding, there's so much inside of you and outside of you. And then once you start transmuting it, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter, and your field expands rather than imploding on you. Okay. The second thing I recalled before really spiritual awakening was not knowing what's real. And, there was a lot of perceived manipulation, right? So a lot of times I find that when we are awakening to manipulation that has occurred socially, by family, loved ones, and relationships, right? And gaslighting, this is a huge indicator that right, that's a spiritual gift. I made another video on that, about the spiritual gifts of gaslighting. But I noticed that was initiation into awakening, because what it does is it flips your reality. You can no longer tell what's real and what's not. And when we understand that we are reality, that reality comes from within, that we determine it, what is reality, right? It's like, it's our perception. So we're kind of losing the firm substance of what's outside of us as reality. That's the gift of manipulation and everything, where things are becoming permeable and impermanent and lucid, right? That was that. Trying to think. I guess those were the two big indicators. And I guess the third one would be, of course, I just had a lot of mystical experiences, meeting entities, seeing things. Okay, and then the final one I'll put, because I realized this the other day, was if you feel like you're in a place where your dreams are more vibrant and happy, like you feel better in your sleeping state than in your waking state, I think that was actually a key marking point for my spiritual journey. And I didn't realize that was preparing me for awakening. Because soon I flipped the script, when we learn how reality actually works, and oneness, conscious, and everything. I was realizing that, so for years I would just feel awful in my dreams. I mean, amazing in my dreams. And then the waking state was just like so bland and gray, and I felt like everything was shitty around me, But I recognize, I'm sorry, it's just hard to put this into the words. I'm like, how did it prepare me for awakening? Well, I guess, again, it was me experiencing the inversion of reality as I know it before awakening. Does that make sense? So, I just wanted to share that to encourage you. Like, that's not the end of the road. If you're experiencing that, that's not the end of the road. If you're feeling this intense pressure, that's not the end of the road. If you're feeling confused, like you don't know what's real, that's not the end of the road. These can all be indicators that you're being prepared for spiritual awakening. And so if you continue surrendering the process to the highest good of all, and voice that intention, and keep seeking the truth of who you are, and keep going within, you will continue to awaken. And it's not by a human force, right? It's by spiritual guidance. It's, I think, beyond our ego's control, but your highest self will continue leading you there. And so I just wanted to encourage you, if you relate to any of these symptoms, if you feel like you're in separation, like maybe you haven't reached oneness consciousness yet, but it's like it comes in and out, I just wanted to share this with you to encourage you on your journey, to keep going within. And just remember, you're not at the end of the road. None of us are, right? We'll never be at the end of our road. But I can't wait to hear more about how this resonates with you. And if you feel like you need any support, please take a look at the links in my description. Contact me. You can read my book, and also I do accept tips and donations. It just helps this channel, of course. And thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next time.